So at the meso level, there's quite a few things I wanted to focus on, specifically agency level, so a lot of those local and state resources that I discussed. So just advocating for legal services related to homelessness. There are a lot of homeless individuals that I encounter that do not have knowledge of what their rights are as a renter. They do not know what their rights are as a homeowner. They do not know what their rights are as a homeless person even. And so just advocating for those who are being taken advantage of, because as a homeless person, you are a part of a vulnerable population. People do look to take advantage of you. And so I have worked with quite a few people who did not have knowledge of the lieutenant code, and were evicted or kicked out of their homes illegally and had no knowledge that that was what had happened. Just different wording that was within their leases that they weren't aware of, landlords putting them out within a 48-hour time frame, regardless of the fact that law here is a 60-day eviction notice that has to be provided via civil court. So just things like that that people just really aren't aware of. Coordination of care for treatment and health care. We do have a lot of homeless individuals that came through when I worked at Dover Behavioral Health in that inpatient mental health setting, that do not have health insurance but have come in expressing suicidal ideations, and just trying to coordinate care for them and make sure that they're getting the treatment that they need regardless of their inability to pay for that health care or lack of health insurance. At the school level, this part is probably more prevalent for what I do on a daily basis. A lot of the things that I see currently within my school district is that they are increasing and adjusting service needs in our schools, putting supports in place to include the trauma of homelessness that our kids experience and how that trickle-down effect kind of happens in many other areas in their life based off of what that homelessness is related to. What is the risk factor they have experienced? What are the current stresses the parent is experiencing right now? What are some of the environmental factors that have led to it, and how that affects their performance in school? And so one of the things that we have talked about in circles with our school counselors is having a trauma-informed care training for our staff, for our faculty, for our teachers, so that they understand what to look for as far as signs of, abuse, neglect, changes in behavior, and not just kind of zeroing in on that kid because they're acting out that day, or they're refusing to do work, or they're being non-responsive, choosing not to look at it as disrespectful, and choosing not to focus on, what they're not doing, embarrassing them in front of the class, calling them out, punishing them for it, and kind of just shifting the focus to, what has happened to you compared to what's wrong with you. So just some sensitivity training as well, on how to deal with students once you discover that they're homeless, or if a student happens to be wearing the same outfit day after day, student has an odor, student hair is unkept, clothes are filthy, it appears that they haven't been eating, things of that nature, and just knowing who to contact within the building to assist them with that, and really just how to have conversations about it where the students' privacy is not being violated and they're not made to feel uncomfortable. And also mandatory reporting training, because we have quite a few staff members that really don't have awareness of what their role is as a mandatory reporter, and what they are reporting and what they're looking for when they do think they need to make a report. So just students, expressing that they want to harm themselves, or that they're being abused at home, or, they're being bullied at home, or just don't feel safe at home. They're having these conversations with students. We've discovered that there are quite a few teachers having these conversations without reporting anything, and just trying to kind of manage it on their own and just talk to the student one-on-one, and then they're sending them home and there's no documentation being done. So that's a big part of it. At the community level, one of the things I like to focus on is engaging in outreach methods. So there are quite a few organizations out here that aren't necessarily 501c3s or nonprofits. They just go out and do what's called street outreach. So, they'll make hot meals for the homeless, and they'll kind of gather where they tend to gather, which for our area is the Dover Public Library. So they'll come out with a hot meal. They may say a prayer with them. They may give them some toiletries, give them access to clothing, maybe transport them to some different resources. Agency level, we do have a mobile healthcare system that seems to really resonate with our community. It's very well supported. It's through one of our major substance abuse programs called Brain and Mind Counseling, and the program is called COPE. And basically what they do, they are a mobile RV, and the homeless can actually access this. They have different drop-in centers all over the state weekly, where they can actually walk in. They can be assessed for vision services. They're able to get glasses, both services for free, the exam and the glasses. They're able to get tested for STDs. They can get their blood pressure checked. They can get their cholesterol checked. They can get just a regular physical exam. There is a very wide range of services they are able to access under this umbrella. And they haven't been around very long. It's been, very recent. But a lot of the services that they provide are things that you would typically need if you don't have healthcare access to a doctor. And these are services that they offer completely for free to our clients. And also including diabetes, which we know is very prevalent among the Black community, as well as hypertension. They also offer nutrition services and vaccinations as well. So it's a really good service for anyone who's over 18, who is insured. They can be uninsured or underinsured, but no one is turned away. So that's great, actually. At the macro level, one of the things I think would be really, really important to focus on would be assisting in program development. So just looking at what the current needs are in our community and how to assist with implementing programs that address those needs. Also, leadership and community engagement, getting the community involved in assisting the homeless, getting the community involved in advocating for them, getting the community involved in supporting legislation that would give them certain rights, that would give them protection, that would help give them additional housing. Advocating for emergency housing projects in our community. This is something that's very, very big right now in the area I live in. There was a huge project that they were trying to implement, tiny homes for our homeless and for our veterans. And in each community, each small community here, it's been shot down. People just don't want the homeless in their neighborhood and have no real understanding that the homeless are everywhere. Even when you can't see them and you don't know that they're there, there are so many different classifications of homelessness, and they are already in your neighborhood. It's very disheartening because, they have a warm home to live in and stay in, and I understand considering safety, but why does homelessness mean that a person is violent? Why does homelessness mean that somebody is a criminal? Why does homelessness mean someone is a sex offender? Because they're all different walks of life that are homeless. Some people just become homeless because they're just down on their luck, and they have tried everything they could to prevent it, but it just happened. And not taking consideration for that and what those people may need, especially those who have served our country, it's just very disheartening. And it's one of the things that I have made a goal for myself to become a lot more involved in, being that the person who's kind of in that leadership role over that project has just passed away recently. Also, just involvement in the increase of policies, things that can be put in place to take certain funding and allocate those resources to create additional housing, whether it be transitional housing opportunities or shelters. In our community, there are only 2 shelters for men and women. One shelter is for women and children only. One shelter is for single adults and whole families. And then we have an additional shelter, two actually, that are for men only that are dealing with substance abuse, mental health, or are registered sex offenders or being released from prison. So one of the programs that I'm actually heading up right now, Each Stream United, this is a program that I have created. And by creating, I mean I actually have a tax ID, and we are looking at a full launch by 2021. And this is one of those programs that will address a lot of those needs that I mentioned. So it is a multidimensional community service agency that will target immediate, emergency, and future needs for our clients. We will service individuals and families in crisis, so that includes individuals who are just getting released from prison, unaccompanied youth, children aging out of foster care, independent living for them and wraparound services, women and children that are fleeing domestic violence, men who are fleeing domestic violence situations as well, human trafficking victims, sexual assault victims, homeless veterans, and seniors, as well as teenage and other pregnant mothers over the age of 18. So we just want to be able to create some emergency shelters for them, transitional housing opportunities, day centers where they can come and, if they're homeless, they can get employment resources, resume help, they can take a shower, they can get a hot meal, somewhere to store their belongings, just being able to, once they're leaving those shelters that they're only able to stay at for an evening, being able to pick up and start their day in a motivational way, and just exposing them to our youth to a lot of different experiences outside of our community to help them, strive for more in life than what they see on a daily basis and know that that's a possibility. It will also mainly aim to provide services that do promote self-sufficiency, because we do want our families to become self-sufficient so that they're not dependent on the welfare system and that they're able to maintain stability in their individual lives. So in conclusion, I just want to mention that, as a social worker, it's very important to have a understanding that homelessness is different for every single person. It affects all levels of government, national, state, and local, and city. So every level of government has different initiatives that they'll focus on based off of what the current needs are and the statistics and, what is available as far as resources in that community and what is still needed after looking at those resources. So for this reason, service needs vary depending on the client. There's no black and white way to help a homeless individual. The most important thing is to meet them where they are, assess their needs from that point, and deal with the emergency needs. While a person may have a homeless issue, they may also be dealing with substance abuse. At that point in time, that substance abuse may be how they're coping with their homelessness. Their immediate need from day to day is figuring out where they're going to lay their head. So it may not be feasible to say, hey, you need to focus on getting a job right now. If they need to go into drug treatment and that will provide them a place to sleep and get a hot meal, then that has to be the priority. We have to think about the solutions that will best benefit the client over what would make more sense for them to do from our own purview. We do need more resources to implement these solutions, however. At this time, just in my community alone, I know based off of the numbers that I work with and as many students as I have just at my school that are homeless, we don't have enough resources to service these individuals. We don't have the funds here to help every single person who is struggling to pay their rent or is behind on their electric bill or their vehicle broke down and now they're not able to get to work because they don't have the funds to get it repaired. We just don't have the resources for that, but within the program that I've created, that is something I'm currently working on in coordination with other community partners to see how we can try to take care of a lot more of those needs and reduce those barriers. Risk factors do not necessarily determine homelessness either. There are people that go through all these risk factors that we've mentioned and, turn out completely stable, and self-sufficient. So it's very important not to look at that, as a disposition for them. Support networks are the most important thing that they need. Community support, support within their churches, support, with from the agencies that are working with them, support from their social workers at a professional level. Anyone can assist or advocate for this population. It just takes empathy, understanding, and focus on the strengths so that we can address their needs and help them meet their goals. Here are my resources.